Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to part of the show where this is what I want to leave y'all with. I created the race system, and y'all gonna help me break it down. We're gonna start with R. Respect every person. Respect isn't pretending everyone agrees. Respect is recognizing another person's humanity before judging their opinion, politics, race, religion, or background. Respect is starting point. Respect is the starting point, not the finish line. My question to y'all is, Reese, we'll start with you. Is how do parents teach respect before children encounter prejudice?
Oh, mm.
Hmm, that's a good one.
Before they encounter prejudice, I would say, like, we raise our son to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, thank you. And it's to anybody. It's not, we don't teach him specific, like, groups of people based on, like, we just teach him those things. And we teach him how to, that you don't judge people based on their skin color, the language they speak, their, if their hair might look different. That's a good question. Because I feel like even when you're raising children at home and you're trying to teach them the correct things, they go to school and they're learning maybe from friends that are not being taught the correct thing. So it's like, I know that my son has came home from school before and said some stuff, and I'm like, where did you get that from? And he's like, oh, my friends at school. So then it's like I try to reteach what I want him to know and how to act and behave based on what's correct versus what his friends may be taught. And like, we live in a prominent, like, Caucasian neighborhood. Majority of the people in our neighborhood are Caucasian. So he has little friends outside, and I've heard them say things to my son that I'm like, why are you letting them say that to you? And it's based off of, oh, your hair is nappy, or um, why do you have a white mom and African American dad, or you're the N word, or so. I have to teach him that you don't be friends with people that are going to talk bad about you in those ways, because obviously that's not your true friend. Because if that was your true friend, they wouldn't do that to you. So I think that even know what you're teaching at home could be the correct way to, like, steer and curb the prejudice. They're being taught that in the community when they go outside, when they go to school, when they go to the supermarket, the mall, the pool, wherever. They're
Yeah,
still being taught other things based on other people's beliefs. So I feel like no matter what you do at home, they're still going to be exposed to prejudice. I didn't probably say that correctly, I don't think, but they're going to still be exposed to that because in society, again, other people aren't being taught differently. So, like, I always, one thing biggest with my son is I tell him, he asks me all the time, oh, mom, you're white. And, Dirty the other day said to him, that's white, and put my arm next to a shirt. And he's like, is mom that color? And he said, no. And then we did it with a black shirt and his arm, and just little things like that to keep him on the path of that you're taught in other places, black, white, Mexican, whatever, instead of just people are people. So, I mean, at home, we do our best to curb all of that for him. And again, I try and teach my son that there is not colors, people are people. We try and teach him that, again, people have different hair textures. That doesn't mean that you're different from somebody else because your hair might be darker or more curly. We try and teach him those things that are going to, hopefully, in life as he goes on, that's what he's going to, forecast to other people. And I'm gonna land with that.
exactly. Uh, Chris, we'll
Let
go
me
to
go.
you. All
All
right,
right.
Jim. You know the question? Or you wanna?
And ask it again. I got it, but just ask it again.
How do parents teach respect before children encounter prejudice?
In certain words, I'm gonna piggyback off my sister, right? And I like that analogy: white to the white t-shirt, black to the black t-shirt. I like that, right? But I did say homeschool because I don't want my kid lied to. And when you do that, you're going along with the program. I do not want my kid lied to. So I would definitely prefer homeschool as much as anything. Now, in the world we live in, that's called shielding your child. No, my child's a regular child, in and outs. But what I'm installing in the house from day one is this is what it is when you go outside. And a lot of our parents shield, but then they go to school and learn sex education. Then when they come home, this is what I was taught. You're shocked, you're surprised, and then you gotta read. You gotta go off of what they say, and somehow let it coincide with the school so they can get it. There's only one way for the child to get it, and it starts from you, mother or father, both. It really does start with you. So I always wanted homeschool, and because you're not when you're brought up how you was brought up, right? Your parents is good, you know, respect. But if your parents is like not rich, then you get that half. And we were shielded. We were whole together. Yes, there was family all the time, every time. But outside of that, like the first time I sold fucking drugs, bro, I was on some. I mean, I seen it around me, but actually, fucking, it was a whole world out there that I just, I loved. Now I'm pretty much sure if I was taught because I had friends that was the opposite of me that got taught, but we still, you know what I mean? Like Dirk said, we lived in the same hood. So I seen my friends with both parents and, you know, the cars and the nice house. I'm not saying I didn't have it. I'm just saying that I seen it. I was I was I was shielded from that. So I want to start within the home because the teaching is necessary in the home. It has to be because because you're the product of your parents. And like we all do, we don't want that shit for our kids. Right. So uh just don't let this you send your kid to school, send them to school, you know, because now you got to send your kid to school, or else the kid could take in CPS coming. If you do, it's just not, you know, sidebar. But as much as you can, teach your kid no holds bars inside the home. I land my plane.
Can I ask a quick question before the next person goes?
Yeah.
To me, or just the
Yeah,
panel?
I just have a question because now, do you think that shielding your child from that is going to really help being when they walk into society, they're not going to be prepared for what's going on outside of your home?
Right. So I don't think that I'm a product of it. I can't think what I'm a product of. And so what I wanted to do, and they know it, I want homeschool because I can't shield what is going on outside. I just can't. Then they come home, you lied to me. Now you gotta lie because you lied to the kid. And then the kid is 19. Nigga, I already knew what all this is when I was 13. Too late. How does that make you feel? Right? You don't want that feeling. It hurts. I'm not saying I did it or the panel done it. I'm just saying we know people that been in that situation where the kids say, "You lied to me. What else you lying about?" And then they take on that. It's 2023, 2019. They took on my parents lied to me. This shit is popping out here. Why'd they hide this from me? Now it's just like the cursing. And no one agreed with me. You know, they got one brother that's on this panel that no, I wanted up front, curse up front. Because what are you hiding them from when they go outside and hear it? My parents told me not to curse. Now you're an outsider. Now you're not with the program because outside of home, you got to pick and choose where the fuck you gonna be at. You in or out? If that answers your question.
Also, to add to it, I would say even if you just homeschooling them, there's things that you do besides the homeschool. If in every city they've always got a little Italy, Chinatown, or you feel me, a little separate town where people are doing them. And they have their own little events, parades, and stuff like that. So this is the time where you take them. I'm now you feel me taking them to Little Italy where they're having their little fest cooking, introducing new dishes, pronouncing new names, meeting new people. Da, 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 da. So there's things outside that is more because we want to make sure what is going into the mind of our child or your child that you try to control it. You can feel maybe prevent
Let me
whatever he's
piggyback off of
about to
that.
experience. Yeah.
Let me piggyback off of that, bro. In
Okay.
school, if you're gonna take French or Spanish, you can't do both. In home, I don't know it, but I know I can, you know what I mean, get some video tapes and shit to make you learn. I want you to learn everything. You go in the Mexican store, you go in the Puerto Rican store. You don't know what the fuck they're saying. At least at home, I can give you an insight what the world's gonna do to you. That's my point. Right? You it's a fresh brain. Your kid's fresh brain, your thought is to send them to school. You're gonna teach them how to behave, don't touch the hot plate, and don't do this and don't do that. But then they go to school and like I said, the sex education. You had a chance to tell them. You had a chance to tell them everything. I'm not saying you're not doing it. I'm just saying some parents wait, but send their kids to school at 8, 9, where that's being presented. I remember going to school. There was sex education. There was a dare. You know what I mean? There was programs where I had to learn this way instead of, you know what I mean, having the truth brought to my attention first, so I can know how to go outside and accept. Seeing a fucking crackhead outside and seeing all this other extra shit and all the how they do it and all the. I was amazed. You know, where the fuck was what? And you know, my upbringing wasn't right, but there was drugs involved. You know, it was high. It was we in the crib, nigga. Not outside. We in the crib. And I learned early, but when I went outside, I started to know how to maneuver and do things. So I decided to get money. Let's get it.
Exactly. Derek, what's how do parents teach respect before children encounter prejudice?
How do parents keep respect before children encounter prejudice? Is the question. All right.
Okay.
Active parenting. Active. I'm guilty of this myself. We're lazy. I'm lazy. I'm lazy throughout my life. I'm lazy in a lot of different ways. I'm a lazy parent. You know, whether they go to school, whether I want to do homeschooling, I'm lazy. I want to do, I still got a life to live. I still got to work. I still got shit I got to do. So when I get a break, I don't want to be active. and that's what it takes is an active enforcement of whatever knowledge I have onto my child, and letting them know that this world is full of tricks, and that don't mean you got to be fooled by the magicians. You can learn, you can be different, you can grow differently, you can speak differently, you don't have to be sucked into it. But what we need to not do is perpetuate or enforce or ingrain the misconceptions that we ourselves possess and that have affected us. I don't need to tell my son my son needs to listen to police. I'm not justifying any police killings or not. I'm not, but I need to tell my son that. Not because the cop's white, not because the cop's black, not because whatever. Listen to when police come around, listen to them. I don't want you to have, because assumptions is what creates all the issues. Because when he's looking at this person as his enemy, that the police have came and they hate me because of they think I'm a race or whatever. Now I'm rebelling. I'm a tough guy. I'm a teenager. Now I want to be tough. And I'm not saying everybody who ever got killed by unalived by a police officer was responding in a negative manner. But all I could do is tell my son, hey, when the cops are there, you're not doing nothing criminal. The best way to behave is just to let them do their job. To put the things down and put that information within my child and not put it into something of trying to follow the narrative that is being expressed on the internet. Not just being a bullhorn. Matter of fact, having my own sense of what I think life should be in general. Not most of us are bullhorns. We're regurgitators. We're just throwing up what's been fed to us. And we don't even realize the reason what we throwing up and when we throwing it up and why and how. This person's against you. This person's for you. Oh, you have to just know what you got going on, what you want, and what you wish somebody really would have told you. And then tell that to your kid. Think about all those shit that you was told that was really bullshit. And then tell them the truth. This is the truth. This is the reality of the world we live in. The reality of the world we live in is that the history of people was there was a chitlin circuit when people wanted to, like my man right now throwing a show trying to get people back to underground rap. Shout out to him. But there was a time he couldn't have thrown that show, right? Jay-Z couldn't have performed at Madison Square Garden. People hate Jay-Z, whatever. He couldn't have did that. He would have had to be performing on the chitlin circuit. So I'm not going to tell my son he has to be thinking about the rules of the people who had to. I'm letting him know that if you make good music and you put the money in, invest in yourself, you can make it. Not that the man is going to stop you from making it. The only man that can stop my son from making it is him, the man he's becoming. That while everybody else wants to present the picture of being your enemy, you are your own worst enemy. Don't allow these people to trick you and make you believe something that's not real. Yes, he will have friends. He does. Who I don't believe in everything they do, but we all have friends who I didn't like. That I didn't, our parents probably didn't like what they're going to tell us because they got lazy parents. My son knows he can't go outside into 12. I didn't make that up myself. I got that from my parent. Shout out to my mother. But when this summer out here first started, you think there wasn't kids knocking on the door at 9 o'clock in the morning telling my son, can he come outside? Lazy fucking parents. Why the fuck?
I just want to shout out the kids because like I see a lot more kids going outside, running around, knocking on neighborhood doors, riding bikes than we've seen in the past like 10, 15 years. So I love seeing all the kids back outside, popsicles and ice cream trucks and all that shit. I like that shit. But that's all I want to say about that.
And I'm not mad at it, Chris. I'm not mad. I'm just not. Don't come to my fucking door at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, ringing the doorbell. My son can't come out to 12. That means he ate breakfast and lunch.
Why they didn't just text his phone, call his cell phone?
Because they lazy. They parents probably ain't pay their fucking phone bill. Every kid that got a phone ain't on. They only can text from the house. They can't even leave. No offense to them. It's a joke. They just rather the kid stay busy. They don't want to keep the kid busy. They rather the kid stay busy. And you have to be active. And we need to.
Wasn't there just something with Roblox, if I'm not mistaken? Where
Yeah. I
wasn't it
was
something
doing
with that shit?
You know what's funny? You brought that up. No movie, Jim. I was doing a thing with my son about stranger danger, right? On a deeper level. And I was using Roblox as an example. I was saying, what if somebody walked up to you and told you they wanted to buy you a Roblox, a Robux card, the Robux. That's what it's called, Robux.
Yeah.
What if they wanted to buy you that? What would you do? He going, I'm going to tell them nah. I said, what if they said they'll give you the card? They got it right there. They give it to you. I'm gonna say nah. I said they might give you the card. That don't mean they're gonna kidnap you that day. They might be building. Yeah, they could be building trust with you.
They're building trust. Yeah. I got you.
Here, take this.
Not that day.
You ain't got to go to store with me today. Here, take this card. I got this card. My nephew is out of town. Here, you can have this card.
That's the deep part about it. Real shit. He's building trust with you.
But it's having those conversations. On that day we was having that conversation, we had walked to a chicken place around here, and we went there and did lunch together. I probably should take him to lunch more. If I was, you know what I mean? We are people, and like I said, it's the biggest answer, and I'll end with that is being active, not letting TV raise your kids, not letting the internet raise your kids, not letting their neighborhood friends raise your kid. Raise your kid.
Is it safe to say? I know. All right, you said lazy parent, but what you're saying now is that would you do it? Homeschool?
Would I do homeschooling
without being lazy?
Would I do homeschooling? Yes.
And I don't mean to call it homeschooling. I just call it
no.
That's what they're calling it now.
I think there's benefits. I think there's both. I think there's benefits in both markets. I think that there's benefits to doing homeschooling, and I think there's some benefits because when COVID happened, when the pandemic happened, we were basically doing homeschooling. He was working on a computer. They was giving him about 2 hours worth of work. I had a printer. I was printing stuff off the computer. You're gonna do math. We're not just doing this.
Was you active? Did you get in tune with it? Like, oh shit, I'm missing this. I'm missing this. Like, my son is this smart. You don't know how smart he is because he's learning something from somebody else. You feel me? So
I was heavily active. I was heavily active, and I believed in him.
Respectfully,
I was giving him a lot of. I think that. All right, let me say this to you.
Do you see how much he was missing out?
Well, let me
my daughter is really smart.
I felt like that. I taught my son a lot. I taught him how to count. I taught him his ABCs. I taught him how to write his ABCs. I've done whether he went to school or not. But I'm saying that. Honestly, I think that to me, in an ideal world, it would be a complete mix of both. Just because your kid is going to that place and getting that information, again, lazy parenting. Oh, he's good. No, when he comes home, I can still teach him Spanish and French. I can still do that. Matter of fact, maybe they did one already in school. So now the one he couldn't take, I could be teaching him that. Instead of thinking it has to be one or the other, I think that the real best combination would be both. Not just homeschooling, not just going to the school. It would be a good combination of both. Of you saying, oh, you're home now, and they didn't give you homework? Well, don't worry about it. I got a thing for you to do today. Here, do this.
They got to identify with everything that's out there. That's what everything is Spanish.
Yeah, but it's easier to just you good. It's easier to just give it to them.
Yes.
And just back those people up. It's easier to do that. He going to school, do what they tell you to do. It's easier. So I think that, to me, if you ask me what my true thing would be, the best thing would be to do a healthy mixture of both. And I'll land with that.
I agree with you. I land. I land. I agree with you.
Chris, how do parents teach respect before children encounter prejudice?
So my son lives with me as well, and I think the base of my teaching to him, as far as dealing with just people in general, not even racism or any of that, but just mankind, is to know himself. You know what I mean? I feel like he needs to, and I feel like everybody kind of touched on this a little bit. And I know I missed a little bit of it. My little bathroom break took a little longer, um, but I feel like everybody touched on this a little bit about, especially for the guys, knowing who you are. You know what I mean? Knowing what you represent, knowing what you stand for, knowing what you believe, and knowing how things feel to you. And so from there, I just take it as, okay, you know how this makes you feel, right? You know what you think when somebody says this to you or when somebody treats you this kind of way. So you take that into consideration. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Now, conversely, I also teach him that with having your own mind and, knowing who you are and all that, you got to be ready to stand up for yourself. You know what I mean? Everybody ain't going to just be cool. Like, go through the proper channels, be kind to people, be respectful, treat people like people. You know what I mean? Just because somebody got more money than you, just because somebody got less shoes or whatever the case may be, more or less, that don't make them more or less of a person. That don't make them more or less of a human being. You know what I mean? That go right back into what we were saying about how people get a little Bentley and forget that they at the food bank. You know what I mean? They get a little suburban house and forget that they ride in the bus type shit. So I try to keep him grounded. I feel like being grounded is really where respect really starts from. And then with the whole prejudice thing, like, I really treat it in the same sense of self-defense. I don't sit around like, yo, man, you got to beware of white people and da 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 da. I'm just like, look, if somebody come at you a certain way, be prepared to stand up for yourself. Be prepared to stand on business. If somebody come at you and treat you like nigger, you know what I mean? Be prepared to stand on business and handle what you got to handle as a man, in order to stand up for yourself, in order to take up for yourself.
Can I ask you a quick
Um,
question? Would you
yeah,
teach
but
him to walk away? Would you teach him to walk away or stand on 10?
for me, that comes down to discernment. You know what I mean? Everything ain't about punching the motherfucker in the face. Everything ain't about escalation. Everything, but like, for example, I live in like a southern rural area. You know what I mean? And I ain't had like no crazy racial experience as far as like, getting cornered or getting yelled at or no shit like that. But I have had somebody, you know, hit me with the N word, and I was at work. And in that situation, being at work, and like you saying, like, you gotta handle business, you gotta pay bills, all that good shit. You it's better to probably eat it than then swing off on the motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, there's consequences. Somebody say something, you react and hit them or something like that. Now you in the unemployment line trying to figure out how to feed your kids at the food bank. We're going right back to the situations. You know what I mean? But at the same time, assault is something different. Don't let nobody just put your hands on you. Don't let nobody run down on you. Don't let nobody grab you. You know what I mean? Shit like that. Like, there's a difference between verbal and self defense. You know what I mean? But always take up for yourself, even if you got to talk shit back. You know what I mean? But I feel like the punishment should fit the crime, I think, in this situation.
For the
But
panel, real quick, for the panel, would you want your son to react off of words?
no, no. Or if he did, I would want him to react with words. I feel like it's a weakness if somebody say something to you and your first response is to go physical. You can't handle somebody talking to you. You can't handle words, sticks and stones and all that good stuff. Like, but at the same time, I'm not saying be quiet. I'm not saying shy away in the corner. I'm not saying be silent about it. You know what I'm saying? When I face it, I still spoke up, but I'm not gonna go straight to escalating just because somebody said something. That could be somebody, even if it ain't racial. If somebody just like, oh, you fat, I'm gonna fight every nigga that call me fat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So, but I feel like even that come down to knowing who you are. Like, everything ain't worth you. Everything ain't worth a risk. Every
That
single
was for
thing
the
that happen
panel.
every day ain't worth a risk.
My question is for the panel.
Sure.
Respectfully, bro. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to hear everybody's take.
Sure.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Do I want my son to react off of words? No. I've been the ignorant person who did that before. I was ignorant. I reacted off of words. I want my son to react off of actual defense.
The situation, right?
Not somebody just saying something. Not nothing. I don't want him to be disrespected completely, but I also want him to know that just because somebody called you a word like an N word or somebody called you ugly or fat or whatever, it says more about that person than you. And that
Right.
and one thing, and you know what? I learned this. A lot of times we have this match energy pre idea of matching energy. But why would I match energies with somebody who doesn't have the same goals as me? This person doesn't have goals. Because if they had goals, they probably wouldn't have time to call you a name. If they had something they was working towards, they wouldn't have time to do that. When I'm working towards shit, I don't have time to call nobody no cracker. I don't got time for that. So I'm assuming if somebody's working towards something, they don't got time to call me a nigga. And that to me is like the most pettiest fuck. Like really, yo, me and Nooch, y'all already know. This is that's one of my peoples, man. We was growing up together, son. We wouldn't even be able to make jokes about each other that was the same. We had to change our jokes up for people to laugh at us. If you made a joke about my teeth, nobody want to hear that joke no more. They don't already heard it. You made a joke about somebody being fat, and they fat. Nobody want to keep hearing that.
Yeah.
It's he's fat. Yeah, we get he's fat still. You get clown for that. You get clown for that.
Right.
It's been lax more. We adults now, but it was like you always had to have a new joke, something that might not even be as personal. So if all you could think of is to call me a nigga, or that's, and I want my son to feel that thing. If all you could think of is that, all you could think of is to call me dirty. All you could think, that's all you. All right.
What else you got? You know what I mean?
Are you going to
There's
touch?
nothing more. I respect it.
You about to touch me? Because if you touch me, then yes,
Right.
I have to defend myself so you don't hurt me.
Exactly.
That's a defense. But if you just talking, I can walk away. That's what I want my son to do, so he don't make the same mistakes that I made, and not walk away. Because when you don't walk away, you're like I'm gonna say I get so dragged. I love ranting, right? But I'm gonna say this right here:
Passionate, man. You're passionate.
10 and 90,
I love the answer.
10 and 90. Life is 10 and 90. It's 10% what actually happens. That's the smallest, not even 50-50. It's 10% what actually happens and 90% your reaction. That's the most good power you have. So somebody calls you a name, you kill a person. Now you got 25 years of life.
Yep.
Somebody call you a name, you fight the person. Now you have an enemy. Maybe you're on probation. Maybe you have an enemy that you might see at the drive-thru next time and they stab you. Your reaction to what happens is the most power you have. And yes, I want that to be instilled in my son. And I'll land with that.
And at some point, you just got something to lose. Like, at some point, you have developed and built up your life to the point where you got something worth holding on to besides just beating a nigga ass in the Walmart parking lot. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I feel like
Yo, I'm sorry, Reese, and 80. I just wanted
Yeah,
to add on to it, but go ahead.
yeah, Rick.
I'm the same. I tell my son all the time because he hangs out with his friends. And a lot of times my son is a bigger kid. He like a linebacker. So He called me on the phone. I'll be at work. He's like, Mom, they called me fat. And I'm like, okay, are you fat? He says, no. I said, okay, so then why worry about it? The only thing I always teach my son that anybody can say any words to you. It doesn't mean that it's true. And the only time I ever tell my son to defend himself is somebody is physically putting their hands on him. Because like I gave him an example one day. He had told me, oh, Mom, my friend called me the N-word, so I punched him in the face. And I said, okay. I said, so if they called the cops on you, who do you think gets in trouble? He said, we both do. And I said, no, you'll be the one that gets in trouble because you physically put your hands on somebody. So the only time I ever tell him to defend himself ever is physically, if somebody is physically hitting him. You're not going to be no bitch and just sit there and let somebody just beat on you for no reason. But if you could walk away from somebody if they say a name to you, you could be like, okay, that's not me, whatever, and just blow it off. There's multiple things. You're not my friend no more. I don't have to hang out with you if you're going to call me bad names like that. He calls me all the time, and I tell him the same thing. Don't be friends with people that are calling you names because that's not a true friend. Unless you're joking with your friends, then they're not your true friend. Your true friend's not going to walk around calling you fat, black, that your hair is moppy. They're not going to do that to you. So, no, I definitely do not tell him to react to when people say things to him because I was that person growing up. I am a heavier person. People used to call me fat all the time, and I automatically had put my hands on people. So in school, I was constantly getting in trouble because I was defending myself physically to somebody's verbal, and then I'm the one that gets in trouble. So being that that's how I was raised, my dad always told me, if somebody says something to you, you do something about it. And then realizing, like, as I got older, like, damn, I actually got arrested one time because I beat somebody up because she said something to me. And now here I am being hauled off to the jail cell because of somebody saying something to me. So,
Well, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, Reese. You're the only one that kept it 100. By you saying, when I grew up, there were certain things said about me, and I reacted. I didn't walk away, and I respect you for that. I was trying to. That's why I asked that question. But you definitely did that.
But that's how I
My fault.
learned as
My
I
fault,
got
80.
older.
My
That's
fault,
how I
80.
learned that that's not what I want for my son. But it took me
No, 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 no,
getting
no, no, no.
arrested.
Don't do nothing else. It was just that point that you made.
Yeah. But honestly,
That's
it took
it.
me getting arrested to understand that I don't have
It
to
was
physically attack
it
people
was the
when they
point. It was
verbally
the
said
point that
something
you
to me.
made. It was the point that you made. That's it. My fault, 80. You can go.
No, you good. Respectfully. Um. Oh, you want me to answer the question? I don't have any kids,
Walk
but
away
would
or stand
I?
on 10.
Yeah, I want them to stand on 10 because I'm gonna. Uh, I want my child to go to, like, you ever seen like where the monk joint when they be training the kids, the monk, and them kids be going through it. They be face red, crying. They don't look like they want to be there. That's where I'm going to send my child, and I want when he comes home, he or she comes home, they'll be able to put up with everything. But however, you won't be able to put up with them if you decide to want to harm them. So yeah, I want them to stand on all 10 because, like you said, man, I think Mo said it either in this episode or episode back. Men stop being men. Feel me? So I need my son to be a fierce warrior. You feel me? The question
100.
was respect. Question was, how does a parent teach respect before children encounter prejudice? I'm gonna say respect is like deodorant. Everybody should wear it. We're gonna move on to A. Ask before
Wait.
assuming.
Respect is like deodorant. Everybody wears it.
Everybody should wear some
Put that on a t-shirt.
with it. Next word we're gonna go with is A. Ask before assuming. Assumptions create walls. Questions connect bridges. My questions start with Reese. How do we understand instead of judge?
How do we understand instead of judge? I think that you're always taught to judge somebody else. And again, that goes back to how you're taught, how you're raised. Um, I was taught that, I was raised very poorly because I was one of 7 kids. So I was not raised to really judge children, but then as I got older, I found myself judging people more. And I really realized that it was all stemmed based off of society and what I was looking at and what I was feeding my own mind with. And it, I feel like that everybody is different. There's not one person that's the same. There's not one person that's going to talk the same, look the same, act the same. We're all different. So you have to understand that we're all human and we may do things differently, but that doesn't make me any less of a person than you are. So I didn't learn until I got older, and I still do it. I'm gonna keep it 100. I still judge people sometimes now. I'll be in the supermarket and be like, damn, like, and it's not something that I intentionally try to do, but it's just life. Like, you don't even realize sometimes that you're judging somebody else until you're judged. And then when you're judged, you're like, why the fuck you talking to me like that? Why are you judging me? And then you didn't even realize you just did it earlier when you was walking in the supermarket.
Respectfully.
I'm not gonna lie, I do judge people. I look at people and be like, damn, what the fuck you walk outside looking like that for?
And I
Like,
wanted to say that in the beginning because when we were talking about race and breaking it down, to add to your point, I was saying me and myself, we're all comedians. I could hear from sense of humor. Everybody on the panel, we all comedians. So whether like I said, when I heard dance, if I tell you to dance like a certain person, or you feel me, that's what's gonna come to mind. So yeah, some things come off jokey, but the certain stereotypes, like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just want
and you
to.
really don't realize that you're judging somebody when you make statements like that. Because I'm like, damn, why you walk out the house looking like that? And in my mind, I'm just like thinking, oh, you just dressed like, why you outside with holy shirts on and shoes that are lopsided? But internally, I'm not realizing I'm really just judging that person. So like, and it goes back. Like, I teach my son all the time. Like, the one day he said, "Oh, mom, we're high class because we're eating steak." I said, "Train, we're not high class because we're eating steak." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We're eating this nice thick steak." I said, "No, we work hard to eat that steak. That doesn't make it we're better than anybody." I said,
Hey,
"I go to work every day."
hold up. What steak was you eating?
We was eating a T-bone steak. I'm not gonna lie, we wasn't eating no like cheap steak, but
T-bone.
in
Richard
his
on your block.
in his mind, we
Y'all
was
got
eating
money,
high
money.
class. And when he said it to me, I was baffled. I really had to look at him and be like, Trenton, that doesn't make us high class because we're eating a T-bone steak.
Now, who
And
cooked it?
then, huh?
Who cooked it?
Dirty cooked it.
Ah, man, I wanted you to cook it. Ah, man,
But
forget him.
it was like that little thing right there in my mind. It realized that he probably judged somebody else because they couldn't eat the same steak that we was eating if he considered that high class. So I had to go back and think like, have I am like again, a lot of times that judging people is based on what you're taught or what you're allowing to be put into your own mind. Because when I'm scrolling TikTok or when I'm scrolling Facebook and I'm reading things and seeing things, you're automatically judging somebody else, even if it's funny. If somebody puts out a funny TikTok of them falling off the toilet, you're already judging that person because you're sitting there laughing at it. But it's like, I think there's a difference between judging somebody in a harmful way and judging somebody that's more of a joking manner or something that may be like, I don't know how to explain that part, but yeah, I think there's
I
a different
understand what you're
way.
saying. How
Do you
we're
kind of
trying to
understand what I'm
model
saying?
it.
I feel like there's a
I
malicious
understand.
way of judging somebody and a non-malicious way of judging somebody.
These
And
things are
I'm gonna
going
land
to
with that.
exist. Yeah, we're going to continue to make fun of people and do that. Like that's the dozens, and that's going to happen. And like I said, whether you got a disability or skin color, whatever, deformity, we do that. You
Yeah.
feel me? And all not all of it is malicious. However, we know that some people can take it there, and it's not specific race, but yeah,
There
we're
was a
gonna.
skit. There was a skit on Keenan and Pill where I don't know. I forgot the tall one's name, and right where the other partner was sitting in the wheelchair, and he was the comedian, and he kept on announcing joke on me. He was like he had the whole shit, and then every time he told a joke, he told him his problem, but the crowd was like, "Keep going, keep going."
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, you should say, "Keep going, keep going."
That
Um,
nigga was damn
uh,
near crying.
yeah, you see what I'm saying? So, uh, it's more or less like that.
Gotcha. Um,
Just be mindful, right?
yeah.
Everybody don't walk the same path, or you don't know what they can take.
Hold on. You know you asking a question? So then, hold on. Hold your thought. Chris,
Well,
how do we understand instead of judge?
When you first asked it, the first thing that came to my mind was listen more than hear. If that makes sense. I feel like going back to how we have these talks, but a lot of people don't listen to understand. A lot of people listen to or they hear enough so they can respond and make their rebuttal and make their retort. And I feel like that's where a lot of it gets messed up at. People don't sit and listen and really, really, really listen to what people are saying, what people are going through, the experiences, the ups, the downs, and I feel like that holds people back from really understanding what's going on outside of their own little bubble. And it can be trying, it can be exhausting, it can be draining to reach across the aisle and talk to somebody you may not normally talk to about a topic that might be uncomfortable to talk about. But I feel like that's where the progress comes from. So understanding, I believe, like I said, talk begins with listening more than hearing. And I land.
It's
Yeah,
crazy because somebody told me one time, listen with the intent not to respond. And now,
Yes.
like hearing you say that, because I'm somebody, I respond to everything. I don't even let you finish your sentence, and I'm responding. So it's that was a good point because I was told that listen with the intent not to respond.
Another good one that I was taught in that same vein was, oh damn, I just lost it. Oh, I forgot. It was a good one though. Let's see.
use this when you got it.
good
I'll
one.
It'll come
remember
back
it.
to
I'll
you.
come back. Come back to me. I'll remember it.
Yeah, somebody will remember it. Appreciate those gems. Gems. Speaking of gems, what do how do we understand instead of judge?
How do we overstand instead of judge?
Yes, sir. Under, inner, over.
By identifying, because that's the way it works. If somebody pours, that means that somehow, some way they know that you've been in the same boat as them. So someone that talks to you, they can identify of your, I mean, how you carry yourself, right? So it's just about identifying, knowing who fits. Because I don't know if this makes sense or not, but I had somebody in jail tell me how not to be in jail, and I was just overwhelmed by it. And this
I was
nigga's
just
in
a little
his
overwhelmed.
fucking, huh?
I said I was just a little overwhelmed trying to answer that. Like, I'm not.
Right.
Is that? I mean, can it? Is that a thought? Because we can learn from other people's mistakes, but if y'all both in jail, can you learn from somebody saying they out of jail? You don't want to come
And
here.
that's what I'm trying to reach at. Like, He was he was like when I was in the county, he's teaching me not to be in the county. Then I went to the big house. But I learned more from the big house than the county. But this nigga's in the county, nigga. I know you. I know you. Now you want to come to jail to try to teach me some shit that you're actually in jail for? Don't do this, young man, because it just, you know what I mean? Just what I could never learn nothing from you. And I said that to this man. Playing poker. Playing poker, selling noodles. It was his hand against mine. And he told me never judge a book by its cover. Some crazy shit. And nigga, what are you talking about? You're fucking 70 years old in prison, in jail, the county more or less. You know, just trying to, I learned a little bit more when I got the old head in prison. And then he taught me something. So I pay attention to what I want to pay attention to.
I kind of disagree with that, though. I think that just because you're in the same situation with somebody else doesn't mean that you can't learn from that person.
So you've been to prison?
No, no, I'm not saying prison specifically. I'm
No,
just
I was talking
saying
about prison.
I understand that, but Mega's question to you was if he was in prison with you, can he teach you about not being in prison? And all I was
Yeah.
saying it was in general, I don't agree with the statement that if I go touch the stove and burn my hand and I say, and you're touching the stove and I say, don't touch the stove, you're going to get burnt. It's kind of the same thing. All I'm saying is again that I don't think that just because somebody else is in the same position as you, that you can't learn something from that person.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I just said the person that was in the county with me, I didn't learn nothing from him. He tried to teach me something, and no, this is the county. I'm going home. But in prison, you got to do a certain amount of time. So I got taught a little bit better instead of the person in county. That's what I'm saying.
Actually, V, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. What interesting conversation. I've been listening on YouTube. Woo!
Appreciate you. Well, so you know what's
Hello,
Woo.
going
Mother
on. We
Earth.
at we at A. Ask before assuming. Assumptions create walls. Questions connect bridges. My question to you, V, is how do we understand instead of judge?
Well, I believe I heard the brother say, "Good evening, brother." I think this is our first time on a live. I haven't met you before, but I think I heard the brother say earlier about, listening to understand. Judging, I don't myself personally. That's one of my pet peeves. I do my best not to judge a person's lifestyle, but I do judge a person's character because I have to protect myself. There's a lot of judgment going on now, especially with people who are trying to live, or want to, or live alternative lifestyles. People who choose are on that path of life or choose that path of life. That's an example of a group of people that often gets judged because of that. And I believe to judge a person by the content of their character is more important than judging how a person lives. And there's discernment, which you have to have, and some people consider discernment judgment. I consider discernment observation, and so that I know how to exercise wisdom. I mean, you can watch a person, look at a person, and just discern. Okay, is this person good for me? Is this person not good for me? So that you can have that intuitive sense of what to do. But when it comes to judging another person, I don't believe that I should judge another person by their lifestyle, but I do believe that I should have discernment in regard to what type of person and for the content of their character, for the sake of my own safety. That's how I live. But if you go to church on Sunday, cabaret all day Monday, ain't nobody's business if I do.
Turn your
And I land the plane with that.
respectfully. Put your camera on. Try to get camera ready for just for like 10 seconds. Just you can turn it right back off. I just need it for the thumbnail. And Dirt, we're gonna go to you.
I-
I just need a quick camera on real quick though, just for the thumbnail.
we
Uh
actually had like a we had like a little thing here with the electricity. So
gotcha.
I've been helping the electricity. I'm like sweaty.
You ain't gonna see all camera ain't that HD. You ain't gonna see all that stuff. I got
Excuses,
you, respectfully.
excuses,
No, this
Question.
is
excuses.
The
Just need
question is,
5 seconds.
can I get
Go
the
ahead, go ahead.
question again?
I got you, Dirt, my bad. Question was, hold on one second.
How do we
How
not
do we understand instead of judge?
how do we understand another judge? I already think I heard it before is identification. Um in recovery I have learned that just because I don't stutter when I talk every time doesn't mean I need to judge a person who stutters because I still do my own version of that. It's because I don't step on shoes, complete shoes don't mean I don't trip people up. Once you realize that, I think, at least for me personally, how many passes I've been given, it makes it easier to give a pass. I think a lot of times we walk through life feeling like we're the one giving all the passes. We're the one giving all these people these chances to do these disrespectful things when you don't realize I was given a pass. When I was a kid, I know I tried to fight several grown-ups. I did. Talk shit about their mother, talk shit about them, called them all type of bitch niggas, fuck you, da da da. And thank God them grown-ups didn't beat me up. They probably could have. They was grown men. I was a fucking kid talking tough to these grown-ups, in various situations. So when somebody talks tough to me, and I might feel like I'm giving them a pass because I feel like I could beat them up or whatever, I realize I'm not the first person. I'm repaying the pass I was given. That's a lot of times we look for the person we give something to pay us back. You know what I mean? But you don't have to always pay back the person who gave something to you. You can pay back somebody else what was given to you. In the same way I've been given a chance to be forgiven and be accepted for who I am, I could do the same to somebody else because I am not perfect. And when you're not perfect, you can't choose what your imperfections may be. And I think once you realize that you're not perfect and that you've made mistakes, hopefully for me, at least for me personally, it's made it easier for me to realize that other people make mistakes and other people are not perfect. And that's what makes me less judgmental of other people. Even though they may have a different mistake than I made. Because that can be the confusion. Oh, I don't do that. So because I don't do that, I think, they did that. I would never do that. Well, it's things that you did that other people would never do. It definitely is just the identification that, like I said, just because we made different mistakes, it's still a mistake, and we're all mistake makers.
Facts.
And I'll land with that.
Did everybody land on that?
Everybody
Everybody.
but you.
Everybody. All right. How to understand instead of judge? Good question. touched on, we touched on ignorance. No, not good question. Like, oh, that's a good question. Ignorant. We touched on. I'm saying good questions as in
I
communication.
caught it. I
Ig-
caught it.
good question. Ignorance. We touched on ignorance earlier, and ignorance we don't understand because we don't know. So with good questions come uncovers good truth. Better than jumping to conclusions. You feel me? So encourage kids to ask questions And if they're not allowed to ask questions, then this is the work that the parents have to put in. We talked about uh, homeschool. Not only homeschooling, you taking them to making them read different books, teaching them new different languages, taking them to different cultural events. You feel me? Juve, not Juve. I want to say take kids to Juve, but you know, so no. Matter of fact, Juve is good because they do in the Caribbean. They go crazy. They go wicked,
No,
and it's
no,
not about
no.
as sex and provocative as we take it. It's cultural. It's a thing. It's like I said, the whole island is getting down, bro. Even when they in the thing in Louisiana, when they be going crazy, the
Mardi Gras.
Mardi
I
Gras.
about to say
You feel
the
me,
Mardi Gras.
bro? The
That's what
kids,
it is.
when the bands be going through all down the street and going
And
crazy,
they
kids,
wear skeletons and all that shit, right?
yeah, they do like two renditions of it because they got the Mardi Gras that they celebrate actually, and then they got some other joint that is just cultural from down there. But however, like I saying, taking them to certain events to let them see pronounce certain either different foods is just being introduced to different things, man. That's it. This is how they perceive the world in a different light than like Dirt was touching, projecting on what we think is the right way. You feel me? So I'll end with playing with it. Next one is, hold on one second. We are up to C. Choose character over color. Character predicts behavior. Skin color doesn't. We're gonna start with V. How do parents explain racism without creating fear or stereotype group?
Wow.
All right, Reese, we're gonna go to you. How do parents explain racism without creating fear or stereotype group? I think we touched on that low key a little bit in the last question.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
kind of did. Like again, I don't teach my son to respond to people anything based off of their color at all or their skin. I always teach my children, my son especially, my daughter, she's older now, but um I always teach him that you don't judge people by the outside of them. You always judge people by the inside of them. And like he always says to me, and again it goes back to what people say in school and stuff like that. Um I've worked in a field for 20 plus years now, um, with handicapped people. So my son grew up in that, around people with disabilities. And it kind of goes back to like the same thing is that people are always being judged based on the outside of them versus the inside of them. So I think that one of the biggest things that we as parents have to do is always just to remind your children that somebody can look one way on the outside, but that doesn't define them as who they are as a person. And I always tell them we're human. We're all equal. We all eat, sleep, snore, everything the same. We don't do it differently. I don't hang in a tree outside and go to sleep. So again, I think that a lot of times it really just is you instilling in them that judge people by the inside and not by the outside.
I agree. V, are you here? Back with us? Back on the flight? Chris, we're gonna go to you. How do parents explain racism without creating fear or stereotype?
Um, whenever I've had to, it was just reality. You know what I mean? Like I've asked my son, like, do you see, like, you have you go to school and you see a lot of other white kids, and there's white kids in the neighborhood, and it's like, when you see that, are they mean to you? Are they yelling at you? Are they calling you out your name? Well, no. Okay, so do you think, like, if one person has done it, do you think that's the norm? Do you think that's what everybody does, or do you, is it maybe this just this one person or this individual? Is this maybe what they going through? So I also, thinking back to what I was saying about how, like, that one incident I told y'all about that I went through, I also asked him, if somebody uses that kind of language towards you, or if somebody says something bad about you, normally are they usually better off than you are? Like, do they, are they parents in a better position? Do they live in a different place than we do? Are we, like, I really try to instill that whole, I believe it was Dirty that was talking about how people overvalue, even though we all in the same place, how certain people overvalue certain things.
Yeah.
And I try to get him to look through that kind of thing, to where it's like, okay, somebody might say something about you being black, this and that, whatever, whatever. Is that person, does that make that person better than you? Or does that make you worse than that person? No, I passed the test and they failed the test, or something like that. And it's like, okay, so you've already shown that you not ignorant or inferior or slow or stupid or whatever the case may be. So whatever they had to say in that instance already is not true. You know what I mean? So don't absorb it. Don't take that in, and don't make that everybody else's problem too, because one person, even a group of people, can feel a certain kind of way, but that don't mean that's everybody. That don't mean, the girl next door that just happened to be white that they play around, outside, that don't mean she hates you too, just because this person across town said something. You know what I mean? Or just because you and your other black friends might talk about this or joke about that or whatever the case may be, that don't mean that's how everybody feel. You know what I mean? So really, reality, because you can look around and see, yeah, some people aren't gonna like you because of your skin, but everybody don't feel like that. And even some of the people that do feel like that ain't gonna say it to your face. They not gonna bring it up. They not gonna confront you. They not gonna call you out your name. They not gonna bring it up. So reality, reality.
Exactly. Dirk, how do
Yes,
parents explain racism without creating fear or stereotypes?
I think don't make explain that it's something that everybody has to deal with, but don't base it on experiences or other people experiences. Just explain that it's something that people do, that people are racist. Some people are like that, and that is an individual idea and mindset, and that you can you can rise above it instead of being a part of it. That you don't have to be a victim to it. That really is really how it just shows their lack of intelligence, and that things are getting better. They're not, perfection is something that's hard to achieve, but progression, there has been progression, and to let them know that it's good to be alive when you are now. You're coming into a planet that is better than the people you knew. Not better than the people you knew, but better than the people who were here before you, because of some of the things you knew, right? Yeah, better than the people that was here before you, and you have more opportunities. And if you use your opportunities in the right way, you can rise above it. It's not something that can hold you down. And I'll land with that.
Exactly. V, you back with us? Appreciate that answer. Um,
I never answered.
how do parents explain racism without
I never
creating
answered.
fear?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm
my
You,
here.
bad,
I
Jem.
couldn't get my phone to open up.
My bad. My bad, Jem. Go ahead. Jump out.
No, let Mother
No,
Earth
no, go
go.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you missed quite a few. I want to hear your
No, I've been
take.
listening the whole time. But go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
Her button was
Okay.
jammed up.
Uh,
All right.
uh, 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 um, say it again, please, brother.
Gotcha. How do parents explain racism without creating fear or stereotype?
By lying. Like, there's no way in the world that it stops when your kid is 18,
Mm.
right? So once again, and I piggyback off myself, teach them home. That's it. If you deny them access and then they get the access outside, you lied to them. And I heard a lot of my brothers and sister contradict themselves. But I'm gonna do it this way, and I'm gonna. Outside is outside. How, like on this panel, certain people grew up a different way. I grew up this way. Um, don't lie to your kids because when you do, and I'm getting older, we always gonna come back to the source and ask questions. Well, why'd you do this? Why'd you say that? Why do you think that was? And then we're 15, 16 years old, and we go to our parents, and their parents are shocked because we know certain words. How'd you know that word? I'm paying attention. Do not lie to your kids about the world because it's cold, it's isolated, it's unfiltered. it's uh it's a situation you don't want to be in, being lied to, because I what I had to learn how to fight from the streets. Granted, however way I was, there's uncles and there's brothers and his cousins and boom boom. That wasn't in my home. That was outside. How to fight. I was just being shielded, and there goes that word, shield. It's not a good. It's not a good. And it fault to you too. Like, damn, I fell. Fuck, I should have did. I could have. I would have. But now I'm dealing with the outcome. I land. My sister's on. She showed her face. Get your money.
Exactly.
And
B.
I love you too, Mother Earth.
How do parents explain racism without fear or stereotype?
Is that question being posed to me?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't hear you. Just
Need it one more time.
yes. Can you repeat that, please?
How do parents explain racism without creating fear or stereotype?
When I consider how I learned about racism, I learned about racism watching Roots as a girl. Is actually how I learned. At that particular time in the Black community that I grew up in, we just didn't talk about it. The adults of that era were very protective of trying to make sure children could hold on to their joy for as long as they could. So there were just a lot of things that were not, around children and in front of children at that time. Even back then, adults didn't smoke in front of children, at least in the area, in the community I grew up in. They didn't smoke cigarettes or anything else in front of children. You didn't drink hard liquor in front of children. Um, you may drink wine and beer in front of children. So, there was always this protection of trying to keep children children for as long as they can be children. And I learned about racism when I saw Roots. My grandmother was always teaching me things, like no disrespect, but she would tell me about, the Caucasus Mountains and how, white people were found, by African people in the Caucasus Mountains. And so she was always making sure I was aware of something, but she never mentioned racism per se, but that they were people that were different from us. At least I can't recall off the top of my head anyway. And when I did learn through Roots, about history as slaves in this country, it changed my perspective from that day forward. Or, and it changed the way I viewed um, the world I lived in, because I knew that the society that I was in is going to be different because, and actually, did not like white people for that. And I began to realize that, that society was different if you were black. But if I was to teach, even my brother, we never really had, my brother never got in trouble, but um, usually we learn through history, through history books, through history, learning about, influence of people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And I would just teach my kid historically about history. And then as today is concerned, going forward, um, to recognize that you don't allow someone outside of you or your family or your community to define you. You define yourself. And once you embrace that, you become powerful. But if you live by the labels of other people, you're always going to be subjected to they label you. I think as one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle, he said something like, you can put poison in a jar labeled honey, but it still doesn't make the content honey. It makes it poison. And that's what I mean by when you allow somebody else to label you. To me, the N word is a label. It's not an identity, but we've embraced it as an identity. I don't particularly use the word myself a lot. It slips out because sometimes I'm around people that use it. But I personally, I forget that the word even exists. But because that's how in my environment, this just doesn't exist. I am more offended. I feel if someone projects a label like the N word towards me, um, these days, how I feel like is if a white person was to call me the N word, I just look at them and shrug it off and just walk away. I would be more offended if a black person called me the word because it's like you're affirming something that was never meant for us in the first place. But if we're going to rebrand the word, let's rebrand it all the way, And I would help my children and the children in my family and my community to understand that historically there has been a relationship we've had with these people that are different from us, and this is what the story is. But going forward, you you choose your own identity and you walk in that power and you don't let anybody else label you differently. And I land with that.
Exactly. um, Question was, how do parents explain racism without creating fear or stereotypes. Everybody touched on it. I don't want to, beat a dead horse, but um, dishonesty, generosity, courage, kindness, evil. That comes in all colors. So judge people by their chapter, not the cover. Next one, final is E. Educate every generation. Education isn't about making children guilty, it's about making them wiser. We're going to start with V. Is how do families talk honestly about history?
Okay. Can you repeat the question, please?
How do families talk honestly about history?
Well,
How do we approach it?
kind of like continuing what I was saying, previously. I remember after watching Roots, I don't even know if my mom remembers this, but I remember going to my mother and saying, "Mommy, we were slaves," and prior to that, it was like, slavery was something you saw on the Super Friends after a villain captured somebody, And I know I'm dating myself with the Super Friends, but who remembers the Super Friends? and and so I just didn't know that slavery was something. Okay, I didn't know slavery was something real. Like people experience that, and um, I remember my mom. She because my mother's light skinned. So I remember her saying, well, this is how I became light skinned. This is how we became different complexions because of different things that happened with the slave masters and the slaves. And gosh, it's such a thing, you know, it's such a tough thing. But that's the conversations that I've had, and also recognizing that it wasn't just, like that's how we evolved from slavery. It was, ooh, I have to pass on this one. I'm getting a little emotional,
Respectfully. Reese,
but I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it.
respectfully. Reese, how do families talk honestly about history?
I don't lie to my son or my children. If they ask me something flat out, I just answer the question based off of my knowledge of things. Um, but I don't think it's something that we should not teach our children about. Um, I don't I don't know. It's kind of a hard question in the sense of it really depends on your parenting. If it's something that you want to bring to the table and discuss up front, or if it's something that you wait for your children to come to you about and you respond to it. Um, I always try and teach my son about what we do now and for the future versus the past, is that's my normal thing, but I don't lie or shy away from anything that he's going to ask me related to the past of whatever it is. Um, that kind of is a tough question, but I think just be honest, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with Dirt and Jim when they were saying like, don't shield your children from something because they're going to go out in society and it's going to be brought up at some point in time. So just be honest. If they come to you and ask you something, your job is to teach them, and we teach them the right thing and not the wrong thing. And I'm gonna land with this.
Hey yo, because piggyback off us three, Dirt, me and you, they have Google, bro. This is 2026. So
Yep.
I would rather get get to ask the question, and if I know it, I'm gonna do my due diligence and tell you. You're still gonna fact check. So I'd rather do it together. So what I'm saying, you now see that I'm right. Result whatever your question was, right? Whatever your question was, you're still gonna do your due diligence as if you that type of child. Like it's more to it. So I'd rather do it together. You feel me? And once again, just being there, homeschooling. I don't want to call it homeschooling. Just teaching the environment that we live in now, basically. And it's not so much the past tense. Shout out to Dirt. It's not so much the past tense is you can Google that later, but right now your question is this. So I'm gonna give you what it is. Because if I lie, once again, if I lie, they're gonna fucking fact check it. It's the world of internet. I land.
Um, Chris, yeah, E, right? Um, how do families honestly talk about history?
Um,
This is the last one, y'all. We bathroom breaking and then we closing it out. Oh no, I gotta go too,
so a lot of a lot of
man.
a lot of when I talk to my son about history, a lot of it is letting them know that we probably know less of history than we do know, if that makes sense. Meaning, like, first of all, I don't know
Brother.
everything. You know what I mean? I don't know everything. Like, we know the highlights, we know the main bits and pieces, but a lot of that stuff is lost to time. You know what I mean? And
I get
then
what you're saying.
but beyond that, I'm not a historian. So as a man, I'm totally okay with being like, I don't know. Let's find out together. And
Thank
like Gemini said, you know what I mean? I mean the information is there. So a lot of the times if I don't know, we'll go and sit down together and I'll be like, yo, let's maybe we'll crack open the book. Usually we'll pop up Google. Let's be real. I'm gonna be real about it. Usually we'll pop up Google and we'll ask Google. And then but what I try to do beyond that though is I try to teach him to do his own research. Because sometimes you'll type in Google, and especially now with AI, you'll type something in Google, and Google will give you the
yeah,
wrong answer. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
I teach him, you know, even if I teach you something about history, if you go to school and learn something about history, if you at the library and the librarian teach you something about history, go back and learn about it for yourself. Find you your own book. Find your own
Yeah,
sources. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And look it up for
definitely.
yourself and find out for yourself. Even if I tell you something, if I tell you the moon is made out of cheese, go look that up and make sure, you know, I'm pretty trustworthy, but the moon is not made out of cheese. So you might want to go and look that up and just make sure for yourself. Because people will tell you and this go back to what Gemini was saying about how once you leave the home, you know what I mean? So I get what he's saying about like it might not necessarily be like what people are calling homeschooling per se, to where you have like a whole curriculum at home and everything, and you teach them mathematics and all of that. In the end, like yeah, a lot of people do that. And shout out to them people and respect to them people because that's the whole job in itself. But also, it's also just teaching your kids little basic stuff. Like your teachers might teach them this happened on this day in 1968. Go back and check that. You know what I mean? The teacher is probably right. The teacher ain't got no reason to lie to you, but if she is, you'll find out on your own and you'll be able to tell. And then next time you'll be able to, hey, but I looked into it and I found these sources from that time, that same time period, that also said that, like, the newspaper said this was the greatest thing that ever happened to the United States of America, but the actual people in the report was saying that they wished it would never happen. So, like, do your own research, admit that you don't know stuff, be okay with being able to say, I don't know. I never learned that. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still learning stuff myself. Let's find out together. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people be like, yo, oh yeah, yeah. My granddaddy taught me this when I was da 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 da, and this is the law. And granddaddy was wrong, and daddy was wrong, and you was wrong, and now you teaching them wrong. And son, go and do your research. That's how you teach history. That's how you learn history. Research. Find out for yourself the stuff that piques your interest about history. If you feel like the president is telling you some BS, go ahead and recheck the facts. You know what I mean? And so that's really, to me, the core, especially when I'm teaching my son. The core is find out for yourself.
Respectfully. Derek, how do families talk
Oh, and I land. I'm
honestly?
sorry.
How do families talk honestly about history?
History is his story. Um, you wasn't there, I wasn't there. We could read a million books about it. You can have one book that says one thing, you have one book that says another. You can get you could. I'd say treat it like a storybook. Treat that shit like Cinderella to some extent, because there's no way to verify it. It's a book, you can learn from it, you can gain some information, but it's less important. It's not reality. You're not riding a fucking horse. Okay, you're not doing that. If somebody talk about how they rode a horse to a library, you could drive a car to a library. Be more focused on creating your own history than studying others. You have your legacy to leave. Stop worrying about everybody else's legacy and stop being so intrigued by it. Learn about your own legacy, create that, and leave that. Because if you too concerned with what happened before, like I said, it's going to have you stuck. Don't fall down that rabbit hole. I know too many people I know who get stuck down that rabbit hole and can't get out. It's nothing. I watch history documentaries. I watch shit, but take it with a grain of salt and you know what I mean, a slice of cheese and some bread. Because the shit that you could watch three documentaries based on the same topic, and them shits that sound so real, and each one could be a different way to tell it. I seen a documentary that said aliens build the pyramids. What? I seen it. Supposed to be historic. It was on History Channel. It was on the History Channel. So it's like, should I believe aliens build the pyramids? Should I believe that? Also in history, what I've known is that they literally during wars burned people books and all type of shit to erase some history. So that means you're already reading something that could have been tainted and been took away. So just know that let's learn your family history is probably not even we try. That's what I'm saying. That shit is so awkward. I don't even know my family history. I need to freaking find that out before I try to teach my kids some shit. Before I teach them about somebody else's history, I don't even know my fucking history. And honestly, I don't even. I promise you, I probably don't give a fuck to learn it. I'm happy about my own self, but I can't even tell him who his uncle. He tell you, let's learn your family tree. Let's learn that. Let's fucking get that. That's our family's history. Where we came from, where we going, where we been. Let's at least learn that. Maybe we can find that more accurately. Actually, who your uncle was and who your auntie was, and how they worked at a restaurant and owned one, and maybe to learn from your family. We all are family in a way, but really learn your own history. Be focused on the things that you are actually more connected with than all these other random fucking stories. Cause I'm not going to see Odyssey. I don't give a fuck about that. But that shit could be a historic movie to some people. So I'm gonna land with that.
School at
Um,
home. Look, school at home, right? And that movie was fire.
Steve, did you want to revisit?
Yeah, I was I mean, I do agree with Dirty when he said, it is his story. Um I do feel it's important to know you have to cross-reference. Their truth is not just something that is a random fact in any given documentation or books or what have you. Truth is actually a frequency, is something you can also feel. And so I always use my feelings to help me discern because they have never failed me. And at first, when I started discovering this thing that was happening within myself, um, I didn't, I was young when I first started having it. But then as I got older, and once I have that feeling, I know it's true. And I don't have to doubt it. It guides me through a lot of my experiences. And your heritage, your legacy is something you build on. And when I had a driving service in New York City, a lot of my clients were wealthy. And something that I learned from some of my wealthier clients is they make sure that each generation is aware of the contribution of their forefathers and mothers. And they don't start over every single generation. They build upon what the previous generation did. There is an advantage to knowing who your forefather and foremothers were and what contribution they made. We are all interconnected, whether you're a direct descendant of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, for example, you may not be, but have we benefited from the contributions these men have made to the society we live in? Yes, we have. You may not know who Nikola Tesla is, but have you benefited from what Nikola Tesla has contributed to society? Yes, you have. And so, even in the GPS, they use that as an analogy. Um, you have to have the components of where you've been and where you are to know where you're going. And if you don't have a clear history or the past, I definitely agree with the history. I'll say heritage or what has happened in previous generations is to me is very important. I have made an effort to learn some of my family tree. I have a picture of my family tree right here. I have a picture on the wall of my great grandmother, my great grandfather, and it makes me feel powerful to know as I can go far back as my great great grandmother and who was a slave. And I have a picture of her firstborn, who was her daughter and the slave master's daughter. And so um, the thing that is very fascinating is my grandmother, if she was alive, should be like 105, I think, or 100, maybe 110. However, knowing her gives me reference to 110 years. And the relationship I had with her and her sisters, them teaching me about my great grandparents and the values that my great grandparents instilled in them, that actually gives me access to about 200 years, direct access, because I am connected to people who are connected to the last 200 years. And 200 years can go real fast when you break it down. Once you get past 40 and you're getting into your 50s, you're half of a century. You're already connected to someone besides yourself. You've lived a half of 100 years and you know people older than yourself. So you're already connected to 100 years past. So you can actually sit down and have a conversation with a boomer, a black baby boomer at that, and ask them, where were you when Martin Luther King was shot? Where were what were you doing when you got the news when Martin Luther King was shot? That's real time. That's real information. And your mother or your grandmother or your aunt or uncle can probably say, yeah, I remember when Martin Luther King got shot, we were doing this, this, and this. And then what happened after that? And then you may not be making history, but all of us are a part of history. And we are interconnected, whether we are aware of it or not. And if you thank you, Dirt. No, you know.
Talking to my dog.
And so you you're talking about a legacy, but legacy comes from previous generations as well. And have we as Black people, if we recognize our value, our intrinsic value, we will be building upon things that our previous generation has done instead of everybody else profiting and having access to our legacy and our heritage and our culture. And we have no protection over our own intellectual property. And everybody's profiting, and we're not, because we're not taking ownership of ourselves, our heritage, our history, our legacy. So even if you're saying, okay, I'm telling my child to build a legacy from this day forward, then you're also saying if history is not valid, one day you're going to be history. So you're going to be not valid either. So what's the sense of building a legacy at all? Because one day you're going to be the past. To your children, you're going to be the past. To your grandchildren, you're going to be the past. So if you've established something and you've built something for them to build on, you will become history to them. So are you not valid? you know and if they have no recollection or respect for what you've done, then they'll squander anything you've built today because you're not valid in the future. Who you don't matter because you're going to be in the past. So it's the it's not about, and it's like the past is like the tree, and we are the branches and going extended to the leaves. The youth are the leaves. A lot of our youth are like leaves now, being tossed by the wind in every which direction because they're not connected to the tree. They're not connected to the roots. And I do feel history is important. I do feel you definitely have to cross reference. I cross reference a lot of things, and I don't I take everything like a grain of salt, but I do make an effort to know it because I feel it's important. You just can't throw the past away. And even in the when stuff hits the fan and people get all miserable and suicidal and depressed and all the other things that can go on with life, what's the first thing people do? They call on something higher, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it. Where do you get the teachings of these people? Jesus Christ, Buddha? You go to an ancient teaching. That's the past. If it wasn't valid, none of these religions would exist today. If the past wasn't valid, why call on Jesus Christ? He's in the past. Why call on Buddha, Allah? They're in the past. Why be Hindu? Why be Tao? Be Confucianism? It's in the past. But whenever anybody life get messed up, you calling on that God, you calling on something, and the teachings are usually from the past. So the past has a place. It's not to be lived on or lived in, like Dirty said, but it is to be considered so that you can build upon it. Without roots, a tree can't stand. So the roots are valid. And if they the deeper they dig, the stronger the tree. And I land with that.
Excellent. Yeah, man, history is not the trap, it's the map. Man, bathroom break, man. I want to thank everybody for flying out with today. With special guest Chris in the building. He popped out
Nice
with
to meet you,
man.
Chris.
Yes, yes, good brother, good brother.
Definitely got your papers today, man. You feel me? You walk away with those. So they can
Right
put
with
that on your wall right quick. Dig. Tell them where you got it from. Send some people you dig.
you. For sure.
Um, yeah, we're gonna hit this commercial break 'cause I know people gonna because I know I got to go. Yeah, we go commercial and then we're gonna close this thing on now. Appreciate y'all. Definitely, man. Then we
Appreciate
crash into
you.
we land.
Appreciate all of you.
Yo, great show, man. Love everybody on the panel, man.
Respect for respect. With last thoughts, any last thoughts before we go to commercial? Right, commercial, y'all.
This is BK.
Mike Payne.
Carly.
34 and a half.
Hot Boy Shay.
Tyrell. And I play Tyrell.
And Monica.
Jay.
Asu.
Mo.
Big Prince in that series Make Some Noise.
You gon' hear me now, feel me now. I'm 10 toes, no small talk, straight to the pen.
Throughout the season, you see him going through where in the beginning he wanted to just do his music and work a regular 9 to 5, but as things continue to happen to him, he has to respond to the environments that he gets put in.
Damn. Nah, fucked up, cuz. Yo, my bad, bro. Where the fuck was you at anyway? I was trying to get a little bottle or something, type of weapon that even the odds, it was more than us.
A lot of people called me and was like, when they see me, I like to say I retreated, which is something people do in war all the time. They retreat to, regroup. That's the word I like to use when I think about that scene. People thought I was like, punani.
Nigga, you must not know who the fuck I am, nigga. This my city. Y'all beat his ass. Get up, bitch ass.
I had people say, you just being you. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't no bully though. I ain't no bully, but yeah, don't take me there, bro. But other than that, yeah, just I'm that nigga, and I definitely feel like I'm that nigga. You supposed to feel like that, you feel me? Yeah.
Damn, she fine as hell. What the fuck you doing with this bum ass nigga? Might well come to my section.
Nigga, I wouldn't give you the time of day if you paid for it.
Like she's a good person at heart. I just think she's in the wrong career field.
You be surprised what type of men I see on a daily. Oh, what? That make you nervous? You scared?
Nah, not even.
I think you kind of see her go from a stable person to just kind of really wanting to.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for flying out with us, man. Appreciate you on the panel and you at home if you stayed this long, man. Thank you, man. You're part of the flight family right now, so you already know what you got to do. Comment, like it, and share it, man. Please share this. Get this out to the algorithm. And if you got hype on you, use your hype, man. I'd appreciate that. Definitely. Every generation leaves behind something. And this is my gift to you. The R.A.C.E system. Respect, ask, choose character, and educate. Every generation leaves behind more than money or property. It leaves behind habit, language. It leaves behind habit, language, stories, attitudes. And these children are learning from what we praise, what we laugh at, what we ignore, and how we treat people who are different from us. Back in. And how we treat people, how we different. Hold on, let me start all over. Sorry. Every generation leaves behind more than money or property. It leaves behind habits, language, stories, attitude. And these children are learning from what we praise, what we laugh at, what we ignore, and how we treat people who are different from us. No family gets everything right, but every family can choose what to pass forward. So you should pass forward courage instead of fear. Pass forward honor instead of lack of knowledge. Let's pass forward truth instead of stereotype. The goal isn't to pretend our history never happened. The goal is to learn from it so we don't repeat its worst chapter. A healthy society isn't created because everyone thinks the same. It's created because people commit to treating one another with dignity, and then even if they disagree. Let's teach the children to value character, tell the truth, reject stereotypes, and stand up for one another. Let's build highways, not burn bridges. The future isn't inherited by accident, it's modeled on purpose. Protect your peace. We'll see you next week. And thank you for flying with us on Land Your Plane.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your destination. Please remain seated until you have properly processed. Keep your mind clear until next time.
Land your plane, land your plane, land your plane.